Barça! Barça! Barça!
Hello and welcome here to Talk FCB and welcome back here to the channel, guys. And of course, the hot topic of conversation right now is Arturo Vidal to Barcelona. As promised, we are going to be discussing the deal in a lot of detail in today's video. We're going to be looking at the positives, we're going to be looking at the negatives and trying to form a conclusion from this transfer. What was a very, very big shock. We are going to break it down. I've got 4 positives, 4 negative points to bring you, 2 sides of the arguments, everything into perspective, and at the end of it, I still hope that all of you guys are in that positive nature ahead of this new season. We are Barcelona, we do have some exceptional players, and that should lead us all to be still positive. And with that in mind, we are going to start and kick right off with the 4 positive points from Arturo Vidal to Barcelona, and you have to start with this player, with the experience. He does come into the club as a highly, highly experienced player in his time at Juventus, in his time at Bayern Munich. Arturo Vidal has played in some of the biggest games, the most high-profile games you can play in as a footballer. He's made 54 Champions League appearances during his time with both clubs across his career. In addition to that, he's made 194 appearances in total in the Bundesliga, split between his career early on at Bayer Leverkusen and then later on at Bayern Munich, where he joined in 2015 under the coach of Pep Guardiola. And also, he has made 124 Serie A appearances. Now, since he joined Bayern back in 2015, he won 3 consecutive Bundesliga titles, 2 German Super Cups and also 1 German Cup. And likewise in his time with Juventus, very, very good domestically, 4 consecutive Serie A titles from 2012 to 2015, along with 2 Italian Super Cups and 1 Italian Cup. Really very impressive. He's played at the high level, he's played in Champions League final, he's played right throughout the Champions League in the latter stages, and he is a player that does come stacked with experience. And of course you can't forget Arturo Vidal's international pedigree as well, where he's appeared 100 times for his country, Chile, and played an integral part, really, in the 2 Copa America triumphs for his country. So without a shadow of a doubt, Vidal arrives with a very, very impressive CV, a lot of trophies won, a lot of games played, he's seen it all, he's done it all, and he'll arrive at this club as a polished professional. And then you move on to the profile of Arturo Vidal, and he is certainly something different in our midfield. He's a different type of player, he's a different type of profile to anybody that we have right now in our midfield positions, and it's certainly everybody's belief that Valverde personally requested this signing. He wanted somebody different, he wanted somebody with this kind of profile to almost replace the outgoing Paulinho. And I actually think that Vidal coming in is not Paulinho 2.0, he's not somebody who's just coming in who doesn't really fit Barcelona. There are characteristics in Vidal's game that does suit Barcelona a bit more than Paulinho. I still don't think he's a traditional signing, I still don't think really you'd say he was tailor-made for Barcelona, but I think he's a lot more balanced. He's good defensively, he's good going forward, he's a box-to-box player, he's got good energy, he's got good legs, a good engine, and I do think that Valverde will understand that at some point in the season he will use Vidal and he will use his strengths. And for me, at Barcelona under Valverde, although he wanted this player, I still wouldn't expect him to be an instant starter. But when you start him in maybe a big game or a high-pressured game, or you bring him on later on in the game, it is good to have somebody who can come on with a bit of steel, a bit of grit, a bit of determination, somebody a bit different to rough up the opposition perhaps and give us that different option in our team. It's never a bad thing really to have a coach, to have different strategies, different players for different times, and providing we don't base everything around Vidal, that's the really important thing here. He shouldn't be a measure of our midfield, he should simply be a different type of option. We should still be basing all of our play around passing football, around Arthur, around players like Busquets as well, not all around Vidal, but as an addition to those, he is a decent option. And the third positive that I will come on to is all about Vidal's mentality. He will always, without fail, give you 100% effort, and often even more than that. He does have incredible work ethic, he's always been a good professional on the pitch, he will always give everything he has, and that's important. You want players to come into your team and do that. You think of him in the Chile teams under Sampaoli, though the work they got through in their team, the determination, they almost like a Simeone team really, that kind of fight, that kind of desire. Like I say, that's not something that every player in our team should have, but having 1 or 2 players with that kind of leadership, which is something that I feel actually we do lack at times. On the field, off the field, in the dressing room, there's not an awful lot of leaders in that Barcelona team. Vidal will add that. He will be a help off the pitch as well in the dressing room to get the guys going. We've lacked that since the departure of the likes of Puyol, and even recently with Mascherano. Vidal will give us that. And again, having somebody in your squad, even if he's not playing, having somebody there who can do that is never a bad thing. And the final positive for me would be the economics of the transfer, which will be the transfer fee and also the contract length. And this is certainly very, very important for me, because had we been paying, 40 million, 45 million, 35 million for Arturo Vidal, it would have looked very, very different to me. But 25 to 30 million, and some sources are actually saying that it could be less than 25 million, maybe similar to 20 million euros. That seems to me like a decent bit of business. I wouldn't say it's a sensational signing or an unbelievable coup that we've done from Bayern Munich, but in the modern market, 25 million euros for somebody as experienced as Vidal, he has quality, he can come into our team and give us something in a long season. It's not breaking the bank. You look at Lucas Digne, who's just gone to Everton for 20 million euros. Basically look at it that we've reinvested that money and a bit more to get ourselves an experienced player in Arturo Vidal. But the most important thing for me is that length of the contract. 3-year deal is what it's going to be according to Rack 1, and that is absolutely huge for me, because again, if we were giving a 31-year-old Arturo Vidal a 5-year deal, it would be looked upon very, very differently. But 3 years gives us a lot more options. It's acceptable for me. We allow him to arrive, to give something in our team, and then to move on without an awful lot happening in that time. 3 years is okay, the transfer fee is okay, and those for me would go down as positives. However, there are certainly some negatives and potentially some big ones in this deal for Arturo Vidal, and we are going to start with that contract in mind. The contract length is good, but for me, the wages are an issue, and that is my number one negative point here. As being reported again by Rack 1, a very reliable source, Arturo Vidal will earn 9 million per year at Barcelona. Now, the good thing about this is that 9 million euros per year is the very highest amount that he can earn. That includes all variables, so he can't earn any more than that, no matter what happens, what he wins. However, the bad news with that is that that translates as around 173,000 euros per week at Barcelona for 31-year-old Arturo Vidal, which will make him one of the higher earners at the club. And I'm not exactly sure that that should be the case. I don't really like the fact that that is his wages. I can take into account that, the wages will naturally be a bit higher than usual, simply because we're getting the player here, like I say, for a cheaper transfer fee. We're not breaking the bank for him, so we've got a bit more to spend on wages. But at the same time, it does seem on the high side. That does seem like a bit too high of an amount. We've probably gone in too high there, not well negotiated, and that for me has to go down as a negative. And I have mentioned it a few times already, but the number 2 negative would be all about Arturo Vidal's age. 31 years old, he hasn't long turned 31. I see a lot of people saying, he's nearly 32. He turned 31 at the end of May. But still, signing a 31-year-old isn't usually the route you want to go down at an elite club like Barcelona. And he certainly isn't a signing for the long term. That is absolutely clear right now. But given what we've mentioned about him coming in as a different type of option, maybe we don't necessarily need him to be that long-term option. Maybe he is coming in as somebody who can shake the squad up a bit, give us that different dimension. And we haven't won the Champions League, of course, since 2015. Going out, of course, at the quarter-final stage far too often for a club of our size. We need to try some different things. We need to get more leaders in the team. And maybe Vidal, as a short-term option, could be successful if we get those trophies. The third point as well is a very important one, and basically that is that he may take away vital minutes from our younger midfield talents. And keeping Vidal's age in mind, there's 2 different ways that I feel you can look at this next point. A, will Vidal come in and take away those minutes from the likes of Arthur, Denis Suarez, Sergio Roberto, Carlos Alenia once he gets back? Will he come in and take the minutes away from those young players? Or B, will Vidal come in at 31 years old for quite a short period of time, give us something different in midfield, and then we'll see the likes of Arthur develop, and maybe then, after those 2 years, 3 years of Arturo Vidal at Barcelona playing sporadically, maybe after that time and after he's gone, the likes of Arthur, Denis, Sergi, they'll be entering the prime years. They'll have really established themselves at Barcelona, and maybe Vidal is just that transitional period. So there's 2 different ways that you can look at that, and again, it all comes down to Valverde for me and how he uses Vidal. As long as players like Arthur are our priority, as long as they're getting some serious and good game time, there's no problem for me. But we can't see Vidal all that often. We can't see him in the team game in, game out. We have to have our priorities priorities. We have to have our specific style of play, and as long as that doesn't alter around Vidal, I'm fine with that. But far and away for me, the most disappointing negative, or maybe the most worrying negative, is a better way of putting it, and that is simply comes down to Arturo Vidal's injury record. The most worrying thing for me is how he's going to recover from the last serious knee injury that he sustained at the end of last season at Bayern, which ruled him out for 3 months of the year. Very serious knee problem, and right throughout last season, Vidal suffered 6 different injuries at Bayern Munich, keeping him out of action for a combined 123 days in total, which, like I say, is a big concern for me. The only positive spin that I can manage to put on this negative is that Bayern Munich's medical staff are not exactly regarded very highly in the world of football. Cast your mind back to Pep when he was at Bayern. The frustrations that he had with their medical team were very extreme, and also you think of Bayern every time they play Real Madrid in the Champions League, even every time they play us, nearly half their team is missing. They always have key players out injured, and my only hope is that Vidal can come into Barcelona, shake off those injury problems, we can look at his training, we can look at his individual work, we can sort that problem out, because like I say, that is worrying. On paper, you do not want to see an injury record like that for your new signing. So that is basically my assessment of Arturo Vidal to Barcelona, and like I said on Facebook, like I said on my community section, I want to go into this season with a more positive outlook. I didn't want to get down on this. I didn't want to come on here and do a full-on rant about yet again the board going for a different type of signing. We've got to accept what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. We've got to support our team, voice our concerns, of course, but at the end of the day, get behind Messi, get behind our players, because we want to see the team succeed on the pitch. It's as simple as that. If Vidal comes in and has an instant impact, he can come on sporadically, he can give us something different and try to, spiral us towards a Champions League title, it will be successful come the end of it. Let's see what happens. I am very interested to hear your thoughts down below, guys. What do you think of Arturo Vidal? What do you think he'll bring to Barcelona? And what do you think? Do the positives outweigh the negatives, or do the negatives outweigh the positives? Let me know in the comments down below. I will see you soon with more videos, but until then, as always, Vasca el Barça!